The early morning sunlight glistened on the water as the young man returned from his fishing expedition. He had set off before dawn that morning, as he did every morning, to fish the waters surrounding Maikiti, his Polynesian island home. He had had a very successful morning fishing, and as he dragged his boat out of the water, he felt happy and content. He decided he would take a few minutes rest before taking his catch to the market to sell. He flopped down onto the sand and looked out to the ocean. Seabirds flew behind the boats of his friends, hoping to catch any scraps of fish left behind. He felt lucky to be living there, surrounded by the Pacific Ocean. He reached into his pocket and took out the bottle of Tiukoka he always kept on him. The island people took this substance to relax after a hard morning's work. It wasn't long before the mildly psychedelic effect of the drug began to consume him. He laid back and his body relaxed as the drug washed over him. Suddenly, something inside him urged him to sit up. He looked out over the water. He noticed that there was something on the horizon. He had never seen anything like it before in his life. It was a huge creature resembling a dinosaur with a long giraffe-like neck. It stood at almost 1,000 meters tall, and it was walking slowly across the ocean floor, the tops of its legs visible above the water. He had heard tales of his ancestors seeing this mythical creature, but never dreamt that he would be one to witness it. The island folk had said that the creature was a wandering spirit charged with keeping the sky and the water from mixing. He jumped up and ran back to his village. He shouted to his family and friends to come and witness what he had seen. A group of men followed him back to the beach, but when they reached there, all they could see was a huge black storm brewing on the horizon. They laughed at him. They didn't believe him when he described to them what he had seen. "That's no dinosaur," said one of them. "It's just a tornado, and it looks like it's heading this way." Welcome back to SCP Exposed. Today, we bring you Euclid class subject SCP-2256. But before I go on, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss out on any more SCP stories. SCP-2256, scientific name Cryptomorpha gigantis, is a species of gigafauna which was endemic to the South Pacific Ocean around the islands of Polynesia. It was one of the very few recorded species known to have developed rudimentary perceptual anti-memetic camouflage, rendering them nearly impossible for other sentient beings to perceive or remember. This adaptation is theorized to have arisen in order to elude predators. It was the largest species to have lived on Earth, resembling spindly, vertically elongated giraffes or brachiosauruses. Adults of the species grew to over 1,000 meters in height. They weighed no more than 4 tons, with most of their mass being camouflaged by a very similar adaptation. With their broad, dish-shaped feet, they were able to walk directly on the surface of the ocean without sinking. SCP-2256 navigated the ocean alone, or in groups of 2 to as many as 2,000 individuals. They were reluctant to approach land, especially inhabited islands, usually staying more than 30 kilometers offshore. Because of their height, they were visible on the horizon at this distance. Information about SCP-2256 is subject to a gradual antimemetic corrosion effect. Corrosion occurs at differing rates depending on the level of detail or accuracy in the information and the physical complexity of the storage medium. In-depth academic papers, photographs, and information stored electronically decay rapidly. Broad descriptions, pencil sketches, and paperwork decay slowly. Therefore, this electronic database entry should describe SCP-2256 only in broad terms. Detailed information about its appearance, theorized evolutionary ancestry, biology, diet, behavior, vocalizations, life cycle, intelligence, ecological role, and cultural significance should be stored in hard copy at Site 19, Vault 1-053. The rate of corrosion in both data sources should be monitored carefully, although at present no technique is known for halting or undoing such corrosion. Although these antimemetic effects linger and rate Euclid classification, SCP-2256 itself is extinct and requires no special containment procedure. The Antimemetics Division Hub was set up by the Foundation in order to study the potential effects of the anti-memes on an SCP subject. An anti-meme is an idea with self-censoring properties. An idea which, by its intrinsic nature, discourages or prevents people from spreading it. Anti-memes are real. Think of any piece of information which you wouldn't share with anybody, like passwords, taboos, and dirty secrets. Or any piece of information which would be difficult to share even if you tried, such as complex equations, very boring passages of text, large blocks of random numbers, and dreams. But anomalous anti-memes are another matter entirely. How do you contain something you can't record or remember? How do you fight a war against an enemy with effortless, perfect camouflage when you can never even know that you're at war? An anti-memetic division hub is currently conducting extensive research and testing to try to determine if an antidote can be produced to reverse the effects an anti-meme has already had on a SCP subject or may have in the future. The Polynesian natives of the island of Maikiti used a substance called Tucoca for recreational and religious purposes. As well as being a moderate psychedelic, this drug had mnestic properties, suppressing anti-memetic effects, and making entities camouflaged in this way easier to see and remember. Thus, the Maiketians were for hundreds of years the only people able to see SCP-2256. In Maiketian mythology, SCP-2256 were wandering spirits whom the gods had charged with maintaining the horizon to ensure that the sky and the water never mixed. They were characterized as well-meaning and friendly, but unintelligent and often deficient in their duties, resulting in storms and typhoons. They were called Polo Engaku, meaning the ones who walk very slowly. In 1991, an internal biochemistry study revealed that Tucoca bore a strong chemical resemblance to the Foundation's own Class W mnestic. A Foundation anthropologist was assigned to follow Polo Engaku, the Maiketian legend, and became the first outsider to observe SCP-2256. An observation tower was quickly erected on the island to study the creatures. Routine containment analysis found that SCP-2256 was safe and required no special containment procedures, or even particular levels of secrecy. SCP-2256 immediately proved to be impossible to capture photographically. Photographic negatives of the species faded into transparency over the matter of a few minutes. Similar evidence of decay affected videotape, audio tape, celluloid film, digital and electronic scans. The observation team soon returned most of their equipment to inventory and proceeded using pencils and paper. At the time, it was believed that such recordings would be effectively permanent. Its population declined slightly in 1992 and 1993, then dropped sharply from 1994 onwards. A combination of contributing factors were observed: illness, infertility, and an alarming rate of stillbirths. In 2002, a field generator was developed, which could penetrate and neutralize SCP-2256's anti-memetic effects, allowing for conventional photography. The first and only close-up photograph of one of the creatures instantly killed it. It was concluded that direct observation of SCP-2256 is injurious to it. This adaptation is believed to have arisen as a means of detecting predators, just as its anti-memetic camouflage protected them from those same predators. Use of a field generator was immediately curtailed. It was subsequently hypothesized that the Foundation's ongoing passive observation of the species was intense enough to have harmful effects on SCP-2256, and that observation was what was driving the species to extinction. Opinions differed sharply about the veracity of this hypothesis, over how thoroughly it should be tested, and over what should be done if it proved to be true. Several extreme options were suggested, including exterminating it to preserve the data and completely expunging the data to preserve SCP-2256. No firm conclusions were drawn. In 2003, observation of SCP-2256 was scaled back significantly, and the Foundation changed focus from gathering new data to analyzing existing data. However, SCP-2256's population continued to decline. The last individual died near Tokelau on October 30, 2006. In 2010, it was discovered that the anti-memetic camouflage effect, also characterized as decay or corrosion, was spreading through paper records of SCP-2256. As of now, more than 60% of paper documents are corroded, even with a strong mnestic dose. The effect is even affecting the SCP entry itself, despite defensive shielding and redundancy in the data system. Since SCP-2256 became extinct, no new data on it can be generated. It is believed that full contamination of all data on it will occur in 3 to 8 years. What do you think of that SCP case? Please leave your comments below.